Turning now to outrage against ICE. Crowds across the nation and here in the Detroit area are teaming up to protest the recent shooting deaths of 2 Americans by ICE agents in Minneapolis. Organizers say it's a national shutdown, and they're calling for people across the country to not show up for school and work today, and also to avoid shopping. Here's a look at students from Birmingham Groves High School staging a walkout today. This morning, they marched from the school to a nearby store to protest ICE actions. NationalShutdown.org says there are events happening today in Dearborn, Detroit, Novi, Hazel Park, and Superior Charter Township. And civil rights leaders in Detroit just made a call for ICE accountability. Members of the Detroit branch of the NAACP teamed up with other religious, civic, and labor leaders this morning, and they just condemned what they call unconstitutional actions of ICE agents across the country.
What is happening in America is wrong. The murders of Renee Nicole Good and Alex Preddy mark once again a tragic disregard for the lives of American citizens. We call upon the Michigan congressional delegation across party lines, Republican, Democrat, or Independent, to stand firm for such a time as this. The pushback on these extreme attacks by the people is why the Trump regime is changing its tone while still singing the same song, entitled Retribution.
They're also pressuring lawmakers on Capitol Hill to vote against any additional funding for ICE. There have been calls for action throughout Michigan. 7 News Detroit reporter Brittany Toulis is in downtown Detroit with more on today's national shutdown and the demands being echoed in Lansing.
The demands in Lansing: accountability for ICE. The 3 Senate bills aiming to restrict immigration enforcement did not get a committee vote yesterday, but calls for ICE to rein it in or even stop the enforcement campaign altogether are growing louder here in Michigan.
The horrendous acts that the federal government is taking against humans.
Charlie Fox and dozens of other Michiganders filled the Senate Judiciary Committee hearing Thursday. Up for consideration, 3 bills making up what's called the ICE accountability package. The conversation growing contentious at times.
I've got a whole list of murders and rapes in Michigan.
Senator, if you could ask the question, that would be great.
This is going to be all I can't rebut anything that the testimony. All I could do is ask a question.
I stated earlier that this is our second hearing. If you could ask a question, then we can keep going. Thank you.
This is a kangaroo court.
But unfortunately, the vast majority of people that have been detained by ICE have no criminal record and came here lawfully and legally.
The bills SB 508, 509, and 510, if signed into law, would restrict ICE activity in the state, not allowing enforcement in sensitive community locations like schools, hospitals, and places of worship, keep the state from disclosing personal information without a judicial warrant, and not allow ICE agents to wear face-covering masks.
SB 10 demonizes law enforcement officers who are simply trying to protect their identities.
They can basically do what they want to do, and the people of that respective community not know who they are. This is scary.
The calls in Lansing to curb ICE will be amplified nationwide with Friday's National Shutdown Day. The battle cry: no school, no work, no shopping. Groups in Detroit and other Southeast Michigan cities joining the movement in response to ICE tactics and the killings of Renee Good and Alex Preddy.
I think ICE is way overreaching.
It's scary to think that there's no reprehension for these people.
Detroit police sent a statement to the newsroom saying they'll be monitoring the demonstrations and ensuring they stay peaceful. I did reach out to the local DHS office for their take on the national movement, but haven't heard back. Now, when it comes to those 3 Senate bills, the Senate Judiciary Committee says they'll vote on them at a later date, and if they get past that committee, they'll head to the Senate floor. In Detroit, I'm Brittany Toulis for 7 News.